Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to this beginner's edition of our Bridgevid commentated play sessions. Now for those of you who tuned in an hour ago, I'm very sorry, but we did have the time change here in Melbourne, so we've gone and got an extra hour yesterday, which I really needed in preparing our slam bidding technique short course. Anyway, let's get straight into it. So for today, what I wanted to do was I really wanted to focus on reading the cards and basically our card play. And so what I'm going to do is just a commentated play session for the entire lesson. But what I really wanted to do was focus in on deducing the leads that are made, choosing our leads, and trying to read the cards and make a plan. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so here we are as dealer with this one. We've got no reasonable hand really. So we've got our 6 points in clubs, 3 in spades, and another 2. We're up to 11. We're up to a 13 count here, and it's quite a nice one. I've got a 6-card suit. I like adding on a couple of points for that as well. So I'd kind of count this as a 15. In terms of the value of the hand, we've got honours in our suits, which is really good. Even our Queen of Hearts, it's much better being with another card rather than being a singleton where it's just going to get gobbled up anyway. So all in all, I quite like my hand. So I'm going to start off with 1 club. Okay, and then after a pass, our partner's going to come back and they're going to say 1 diamond. Our next bid here, we're going to tell them about our spades. And they're going to come back and they're going to say 2 no trumps. Now here they're 2 no trump bid. It shows that they've got sort of 10 to 12 points and a balanced hand. So what do we want to do now? So we had 13 high card points. I like to count on 2 for length. So I'd actually end up calling this one a 15 count. And opposite 10 to 12, I think I'd like to be in game opposite that one. So I'm going to put the contract into 3 no trumps. And we'll see how that goes. Oops. Not our turn yet. Okay, so that's where we end up, and this puts our West player on lead, who starts off with the 2 of hearts. Now, what do we know about their lead so far? We actually know quite a bit about this hand. Just from that very first lead that was made, we've got quite a bit of information. So here what we know is the whole distribution of the heart suit. We know that our West player must have 4 of them because they've led the 2, and leading 4th highest, it means they can only have 4 cards in the suit. So it means that there's going to be 4 with West and there's going to be 5 with our East player. We also have a little bit more information. We know that West has led away from an honor card, and it could be the King or it could be the Jack, we don't know. But we also know they won't have a sequence. So if they had the Jack, for instance, they won't have the 10, the 9, because they should have led top of their sequence. Another interesting thing that we know from from the lead is that once we've deduced that our East player happens to have 5 hearts, in the bidding they also didn't overcall 1 heart, which seems a little bit odd. So that's going to give us 2 indications. It's going to give us the indication that they didn't overcall either because their suit was particularly poor, so in that case they probably don't have the King, or it's going to give us the indication that they were particularly weak in their strength and they don't actually have the points that they need to overcall. So that's what we can start to deduce just from this opening lead. We know the distribution of the hearts, that West has 4 and that East has 5, and that's because after the 2's led, if you're leading 4th highest, you can't have any card lower than the 2. And we also know that East had the opportunity to overcall 1 heart, but they didn't take that choice. So it means they either have a particularly poor suit or that they don't have very many points at all. Okay, so in a no trump contract, the first thing that I want to do is I want to count my tricks. So these are the ones that I can take home with me right now without ever losing the lead. So here I've got the Ace, the King, and the Queen of Spades. I've got the Ace of Hearts, that's 4. And I've got the Ace of Clubs for 5. So I'm going to need to establish another 4 tricks to be able to make my contract of 3 no trumps. Now we've got a few problems here. We know that the diamond suit isn't particularly nice, But, oh, I just realised you can't see the whole hand. That'd make life a lot easier for you. There we go. That's probably making life a lot easier. So just to go through that count of the tricks again. So we've got our 3 tricks in spades because we've got the ace, the king and the queen. We've also got the 1 trick in hearts with the ace. And we've also got the 1 trick in clubs with the ace as well. So we needed to get an extra 4 tricks to be able to get to our contract of 3 no trumps. The best spot's going to look like our club suit. Now, of course, there's a lot of problems on this hand. What we know that the opponents don't know are that our diamonds are absolutely rubbish and we don't have particularly good chances with the diamonds. But they're going to have to figure that out for themselves. It looks like they probably want to keep attacking hearts from their perspective. Now, with the heart suit, I'm going to be much better to try to put in the queen of hearts and try to basically win 2 tricks out of this suit when I don't necessarily deserve 2 tricks. If I just run it around to my ace, I'm only ever going to get 1 trick, and that's because what's going to happen, of course, is they're going to then put the king on top of the queen, and I'll never get a chance to win it. I might have it gobbled up by the king anyway if East has it, but I prefer my sort of 50% chance rather than no chance at all. Okay, so let's see how we go. Okay, beautiful. So what we now know is that the king was over in West. If East had the king, they would have put it on that queen straight away. So this brings us to what we're going to do next. Now, what we want to do, we want to work on our clubs, but ideally, our safest thing we could do is if we could take all of our club tricks without losing the lead, we'd be in a much better position. And this is because we're not risking the opponents being able to take lots of tricks in diamonds, which we know they can potentially do. So the way that we'd want to do that is we'd want to be in the south hand so that we could then take a finesse in clubs. And so what we could do if we wanted to is actually cross over to our ace of spades because we're not worried about them attacking spades. And we could now try to take our finesse. And the way that we'd want to do this, we'd actually want to lead out one of the jack or the 10. And this is because if the finesse works, what we'd want to do is we'd want to repeat the finesse. Now, you would have also noticed that you're in a 10 card fit here in clubs. And why don't we want to play in 5 clubs? As it turns out, 5 clubs would have been a much nicer contract because what'll, maybe it's not that much nicer actually. You still do have some problems there. You need your spades to break 3-3 or something good to happen, so it's not that great a contract. But often with a minor suit fit, what you actually want to do is play 3 no trumps instead. And that's because to end up getting to 5 of a minor suit, for starters, you can only afford those top 2 losers. Whereas in no trumps you can afford 4 of them, and generally making 9 tricks is going to be a lot easier than making 11 tricks. Even if 3 no trumps goes down, it's pretty likely that 5 of a minor was going to go down as well. Of course there are times where 1 makes and 1 doesn't, but on those times I'll tell you that 3 no trumps is the contract that makes more often. Okay, so I'm missing 3 cards in my club suit. When we work out the odds of what's going on here, generally what will happen is that they're going to split 2 and 1, and the player who's got 2 is just more likely to have the king. Now, if we assume that the player that's got 2 has the king, if West has it, my finesse is going to work and I'm not going to lose any club tricks at all. If East has the king and 2 of them, I'm going to lose my finesse, but I was always going to lose a club, so I'm not too worried about that because generally if they've got the king, they'll have another one as well. There'll be rare cases where East will have the king and it'll be their only one, but if you do play the ace, hoping that that's the case, it's a bit anti-percentage because it's basically catering for that one situation where East only had 1 club and they only had the king as their 1 club. That's not very likely compared to all the other possibilities. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so our finesse didn't work here. Sorry, they didn't play the 8. Our finesse didn't work here. The king was over with the East player. But if it had worked, even if, say, West had 3, if it did work, we'd now be in the south hand and we'd be able to play another club up. Okay, so we've lost that to East, but in good news, we've actually set up all our club tricks now. So if we're able to get the lead, we're fine to make our contract, because at this stage, the only trick that we're going to lose would actually be a diamond. So it all comes down to what the opponents do now. This is a bit of a race situation. We know that we're particularly vulnerable in the diamond suit, but we know from the lead that the opponent, and also the hand, the opponents have 9 cards in hearts, and they've already started attacking them. So what's going to happen most of the time is they're going to keep on attacking them. And this is particularly great for us, because now what's happened is we've got the lead and we 100% know that we're able to make our contract. So we can go along with cashing our clubs and cross back over, and we can win those. And now we're actually in a situation where we can hope for an extra trick that we don't deserve, because at the moment we shouldn't necessarily win our 3 tricks in spades. And here's something that's just happened. Sometimes what you need to do is you need to keep track of 1 or 2 suits. Here we had to keep track of the clubs, but another good suit to keep track of would have been the spades as well. Now at the start, the dummy had, or North had 4 of them and South had 3 of them to the ace. This gives us a total of 7. So what it means is the opponents had 6. Now we've already played 1 round, so they played 2 of them. We just had a discard from West, so at the moment there's only actually 3 spades out, and if we keep playing our clubs and they hold on to the wrong things or they break nicely, what we might find is that we actually end up getting to score all of our spade tricks. Okay, so let's try it and see how we go. Okay, so now that we've played this round, they only have 1 left, and it's really good to try to count down. So what I would have wanted to do was at the start of the hand go, I know that I've got 7 of them, the opponents have 6. Then after I played the first round, I'd know the opponents had 4. Then after I saw the discard, I'd know the opponents had 3. And now that I've played this last round, I know that there's only 1 outstanding. So I'd cash my queen, and then I'd basically play my 6 and know that it's a winner. If you ever got to this position and you were choosing between which to play, the 6 of spades and the 4 of diamonds, and you hadn't been counting, my advice would be always play the one that you think has the best chance of winning a trick. Now we know that the ace of diamonds is still out, and we know that we had very, very poor diamonds. So I wouldn't want to play the diamond here, even if I hadn't been keeping count. What I'd want to do is I'd want to play the spade, because that's one that has some chance of winning. And of course it does today. And lucky last one, the poor opponents are crashing their honours in diamonds. That's a bit unlucky for them, and unfortunate for the opponents really. See if I can get into the analysis on this one. I don't know if it's gonna work. Actually I might get past that. Yeah, so one thing that happened in this auction was that basically our 1 diamond bid had scared off the opponents. They didn't want to lead diamonds. They didn't think that that was going to be the right attack for their side, even though it actually would have been on the hand because our diamonds were so weak. Now, the opponents had nothing else to go on. They had started off with the lead of a heart. They'd started working on their 9-card suit. So I've got all the sympathy in the world for them to keep ploughing away at that and set up, as it so happens, let me make the contract. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll just swap around which hand you can see, because this one's not particularly interesting. Let's give you this one, which is much nicer. All right, so here we are, and we're now the player in 4th seat where you've got this hand. So what happens is it goes pass, and your partner then opens with 1 spade, and it goes pass around to you. What are you going to bid with this one? So first and most importantly, if I've got a hand like this, straight away at the start of the hand, I know that we're going to have to go to games somewhere. And that's because I've got, 16 points myself, and my partner's open the bidding. So what I'll do is I'll make a mental note to myself that I have to go to game at some stage. I can't ever not let us play in a game contract. And that's going to mean that I can't basically bid a suit that's already been bid if it's below game, or else I'll be limiting my hand and I won't be telling partner about my points. So for starters, I'm going to bid 2 diamonds, a new suit, just natural and forcing. And partner comes back here with 2 no trump bid. So this is typically them telling us that they're 12 to 15 and they're balanced. 12 to 14, sorry, and balanced. And what do we want to do opposite this information? Now, I was a bit worried at the start because I had 16 points, which is a few more extra than I need to be able to just get to a game contract. Now that partners told me that they're 12 to 14 though, I'm not worried that I'm going to be missing a slam at all. And that's because even if partners got 14 with my 16 and 1 length point, we're still only at 31. So I know we're not going to have enough points for slam. So now my next question comes into where do I want to play game contract? And I think 3 no trumps is probably going to be the best spot here. Partner won't have 6 spades or they would have rebid them, and it doesn't look like diamonds is going to be a great spot either. And there we go, we end up in another 3 no trump contract. And this time we're going to get the 3 of diamonds lead. Actually, sorry, no we're not. They're not going to lead our suit, are they? Okay, and here we go. We can see all the hands now. And let's start to make a plan on this one. So again, what we want to do is we want to count our winners. So in spades straight away, we can take home 2 winners. In hearts, we don't have any winners, but from the lead, we're going to be able to set up at least 1. We've got 3 diamonds. We've got to be a little bit careful about how we play them though, because there'll have to be some unblocking. And we've also got 2 clubs. So what does that bring me up to? 5, 6 including my heart, and 2, so 7. So we've got to find 2 extra tricks somewhere. We've got a couple of different options for these. We've got the spades as an option. We've also got diamonds as an option. We've also got clubs as an option as well. And who knows, we could even get an extra heart trick. So it's a bit of an interesting one. The first thing I want to talk about though is what do we think of the 2 no trump bid by the south hand? Now, normally to bid 2 no trumps here, they want to have 12 to 14 and a balanced hand, which is a key criteria. And instead they've bid 2 no trumps here when they have a singleton. Now, why have they done this? It's a bit of an interesting one. It's not the typical thing that you do, but I've got some sympathy for the hand because it was in a little bit of a jam. Now, they had a couple of different options. Ideally, they would have liked to have bid their clubs, but they couldn't actually do this because that would be a reversing bid promising that they've got 16 or more points. Now, they couldn't bid their heart suit because they don't have 4 of them. Their only other option other than 2 no trumps would be to have bid 2 spades, and that would normally show 6 spades, or at least partner would assume that you've got 6 spades. And because they've got such a rubbish spade suit, they probably don't want to indicate to their partner that they've got 6 of them. So I've got a fair bit of sympathy here for our south player bidding 2 no trumps, even though they're not balanced. Maybe a good way of thinking about it is that singleton, because it's a king, it's almost worth as though you've got 2 of them. The singleton in the suit that partners bid, it's probably not that bad to bid no trumps on. So there's South's rationale. Alright, so let's see what happens on this heart lead. Okay, we get the ace. So that's a great news for us. It means we're going to have 2 tricks in hearts. So I think that brings us up to 8 tricks, and it means that we only need to get 1 more. What this means, we're going to have a couple of different ways of looking at getting an extra trick. If our clubs divide 3-3, we get an extra trick there. If our spades divide 3-3, we get an extra trick there. We've got a few options, but let's see how the opponents continue playing. Okay, so they've knocked out one of our heart stoppers, and what do we want to do now? The first thing I'm going to do, and it's mostly just so I don't have some problems later, is, actually it depends what I want to do. Depends which line I'm going to attack. I was thinking what I might want to do is unblock my king of diamonds, and that would be so that later on I can definitely get over to the north hand and I can win the diamonds. The only problem with that here is that the north hand at the moment is the one with a lot of entries, so I'm probably not going to have any problems doing that, whereas I may have some problems if I decide that I want to set up spades or something like that in trying to get back to the south hand. So what I might do is put that off for a little while. So which line do we want to go? Do we want to hope that our clubs are breaking 3-3, or do we want to hope that our spades are breaking 3-3? We've got a couple of different options, really. It's an interesting one. What I might do, I might see how the spades are going. One reason for this is no one made sort of a takeout double or anything of spades, not that they have too many points. And sometimes here what you might want to do is notice sort of which cards the opponents are playing. And it just basically gives you a little bit of a hint about which line that you might want to take. So here my opponents have both followed in spades, and I haven't seen anything, I guess, sort of crazy happen. They've all played cards. No one's come out with the queen or the jack or any honours like that. So I might cross back over, and I'm going to play that diamond now just to unblock it. And now we might come out a spade and see what happens. If they don't break nicely, I'm not too worried because I'll be able to win my king of hearts and then knock out the final one. I might go down, but I might still make my contract anyway. Okay, so here we are, and they have broken 3-3. So this is particularly good for us because we had 8 tricks. We've actually been able to set up 2 more now. So we've been able to set up both the 9 and the 7 of spades. And at this point, we're actually going to be fine, I think, to win the rest of the tricks. Because what will happen is that we've got the 2 spades to win, the king of hearts, the ace king of clubs, and we're going to win those diamonds as well. But we do need to be a little bit careful with this situation. What we're going to have to do as well is we're going to have to make sure that whenever we win that king of clubs, we have to cash those ace queen of diamonds, or else we're not going to get them at all. Okay, so the opponents continue on with a heart. And I might unblock those diamonds now just before, so I don't forget. I'd probably claim here if I could, and if you're comfortable with claiming at the time, just because I know personally that a lot of the time I'll forget what I was planning on doing and might end up getting it wrong. Okay, and so then we could cross over to the ace, knowing that our 9 and our 7 are winners. Now there were a couple of important things on this one. We really had to count that spade suit. And often in no trumps there will be one particular suit that you need to keep track of really, really well. Another thing is that it's really important to count those tricks at the start and make your plan from there and assess what your different options were. We had lots of options on that hand. We had spades, we had clubs, and we had diamonds. I decided the spades would be best because even if they didn't break nicely, I might have the time to keep attacking them. If I had attacked clubs though, if they didn't break nicely, I'd never get extra tricks anyway because I didn't have the length there. Also in no trumps, what you want to be doing is you want to be going about your work before you take your tricks. What I like to do, I guess, is that at the start of the hand, once I've counted those tricks that I've got, I like to think of it as I put them in the bank. Then what I do is I go about doing my work. Once I've done my work, I then collect the tricks from my work, and then I go back to the bank and I get my tricks out of the bank and then collect them. Try not to touch the tricks that you already have. The only exceptions for this would be, for instance, when you need them as entries or you need to unblock. So during that hand, I played a diamond across to the south hand because, for starters, I needed it unblocked anyway, but it was also an entry. Okay, let's take a look at our next one. Do feel free to send through any questions that you have. Yeah, wow, nice spades, hey. And we're even dealer with this one. So we've got 13 points by the looks of things. So far too many for us to preempt, and that's not even including any of our spade length points. If you do count length points, they get capped at 2. So length points, the way they work is that for a 5-card suit, you get 1 bonus point, and for a 6-card suit, you get 2 bonus points. If you got 7, it's still only 2 bonus points. Now, the rationale behind this is long suits take tricks, and that's why we include length points. Okay, so with this one, I'd start off with 1 spade, and my plan is that in the auction, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump bid to 4 spades, and this is our way of showing our partner that we had a hand that was too strong to open a preempt, but it's a preempting shape. So it's got 7 or more in the suit, but it had sort of 12 or more points. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so partners bid 2 hearts, and that's a great sign for us, isn't it? So now we know that partners even got 10 or more points. Shouldn't change our plan though, we should still jump to 4 spades. The only other thing you could do if you wanted to is take it a bit slower. I'd especially do this if I was playing 2 over 1. And just bid 2 spades, just to show your weak hand and your long spades, and then keep bidding the spades, but that's only if you're playing 2 over 1. Okay, so we get to 4 spades, and we're going to see the 8 of clubs lead. Alright, so let's make our plan. Okay, so we've just played a couple of no trump contracts. When we're in a suit contract, it's completely different. What we're trying to do is we're trying to count our losers. And this is how many tricks in each suit we're going to lose. So in my spades, it kind of looks like 2 losers, but it could actually be 3. Now, the first thing we need to do is how many cards am I missing in the suit? I'm missing 4. Then we need to think about sort of a worst case scenario. Imagine, say, if they broke 3-1 or even 4-0. If the ace was to capture the king, then we'd win the queen, but then we might have to lose to the jack. And if they broke with sort of 4-0, we might even need to lose to the 10 as well. So that's a bit tough. So I'd end up counting this as basically 2 losers, and that's catering for if they were 3-1 and my king got captured by the ace. So we've got 2 losers in spades, we've got no losers in hearts, we've got 1 loser in diamonds and no losers in clubs. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do in a suit contract is I like to think about what extra winners the non-anchor hand was. So when I count the losers, what I'm doing is that I'm calling one hand the anchor hand, that's south in this case, and it's the player who has the most trumps. Now, the reason that I do this is because what happens is we count the number of cards in the other suits that they have, and that's the maximum amount of losers that we can have in the suit. After they run out of cards, we assume that they're going to trump them. Now, here with our heart suit, we actually have some extra winners in the north hand, and that's because we've got the ace to take care of our 6, we get to win the king, but then we've got the queen and the jack, which aren't actually doing anything. They're extra winners. Now, extra winners are our favorite way of discarding losers. So ideally what I'd want to do is I'd want to find some losers that I could discard on, say, that queen and jack of hearts. Now, you need to think about which losers can actually go away. Now, with our spade losers, our ace of spades can't go away, but we might be able to stop them from winning the jack. With our diamond losers, we can't really do anything at all, and that's because of the fact that the opponents have to win the ace. So for this hand, my main concern is going to be not losing 2 spades if I can. Okay, so let's see how we go. There we go, I've got another extra winner in the north hand. So now my queen of clubs is good as well. Okay. Now, this hand seems a little bit deceptive because I've got so many winners in all these other suits, but my main concern has to be this spade suit. And what's going to be the best way to play it? Any ideas? The best way to play it is going with little cards towards big cards. So what I'd want to do here ideally is be able to be in the north hand and lead a spade up towards my king and queen. And what's going to happen here is that if East holds the ace, they're going to be finessed. And I'll show you how I'm going to do it. For starters, I'm actually going to waste my king. I'm going to overtake it with the ace of hearts. And this is because I've got so many winners in hearts. It doesn't matter how I win the tricks. I can afford to what we call crash my honors. But what I wanted to do was make sure I can use this as an entry so that I will be able to actually play the spades how I want to. Okay, so what I'd want to do is play out a spade here. Now, if East has the ace, they have a problem, because what's going to happen is if they play it, I just play small and I'll get to win my king and my queen and it'll never get captured. If they play small, what I can do is I can try to win the queen, and we might see something like this. So here, this is interesting. West has played the jack. Why would they do that? Now, it's probably going to be because they either have the jack 10 as a doubleton, or alternatively, it might be because the jack was a singleton and East actually started off with 3 cards in spades. And I'll open it up so we can see all the hands. Okay, so this is actually the case of what had happened on this one. So what I was able to do was I was able to play a spade from north and catch East in this problem. If East plays the ace now, I'm not going to lose any more tricks in spades. If they don't play the ace, I can try to win the queen, and if West had the ace, they'd capture it, that's fine. But when they have the singleton, they just have to play it. Now, here I know what's going on basically. I know that West either has a doubleton jack, so the jack and the 10, or alternatively that that was their only one. And I'm going to play it as though it's their only one. And what I could do is I could, now that I've unblocked my king of hearts, I could cross back over to the north hand and I could do this maneuver again. Now, if East plays the ace, I'll play low. And if East plays the 10, I'm going to try to win the king. Now, the reason that this is much better is have a look at what happens if now I come out with the king of spades instead of playing the heart and repeating this. If I do this, what's happened now is East has been able to capture my king and their 10 of spades is actually going to be a winner. And I'm actually going to lose 2 tricks in the spade suit, which I didn't have to lose. Fortunately, I'll still make my contract today because my hand is so good and we're just going to lose the ace of diamonds. But it was a much better line to be able to play those spades up towards the king-queen. One thing that I love to do is play little cards up towards big cards, and what it does is it gives you a better chance of being able to win tricks that you shouldn't necessarily have won. And a lot of the time it ends up finessing people when it might not necessarily have done so. Okay, so we'd make 10 on this one, or if we played the spades properly, 11. And this is the type of thing that it's a little thing, it's a really little thing that happened, that we played that spade suit correctly. We wanted to do little cards towards big cards. But those little things are what will end up getting you better results when you do play, because it's all about who can take more tricks. And if most of the room's just getting their game contract making and you got an extra trick, you're going to get a really good score out of it. Okay, so let's take a look at another one, and I'll put you back to just seeing one hand. Who do we want? Let's have a look at the hand with all the clubs. Okay, so you're the last one to act here, and we'll see what ends up happening. So we get a 2-heart opening from our West player. And our partner's going to, what are they going to do? They're going to pass. Our opponent's bid 4 hearts. Yay, caramba. Alright, so what's going on this one? What do we know? West opened with a weak 2 in hearts. Our partner didn't want to make a bid. And East has jumped to 4 hearts. Now, a lot of the time this is going to be because East does have quite a few hearts. So partner might only have 2 or maybe 3 of them. And they didn't want to make an overcall, they couldn't bid no trumps, and they couldn't actually make a double either. Now, what do we want to do here? I think because our hand's so weak in points, I'd probably just pass. If it was any other vulnerability, if you were not vol, for instance, and your opponents were vulnerable, it completely changes the scoring. So what you might want to do is you might want to give 5 clubs a go, and you'd be doing this as though you're sacrificing. You're not planning on making it. On a rare day, you will make it, but it's because you think that your opponents are going to be making 4 hearts. And we'll see how we go. Okay, so 4 hearts, and we're going to see how we go in defense. Alright, so partner gets off to the Jack of Spades lead, and you see this dummy, which is a nightmare, I believe. Okay, so with this dummy here, we could have had a nicer lead from partner, couldn't we? We're going to have some problems, I think, on the hand. We know we can't win any clubs in defense, so that's not great. We know that something weird's going on with the spades. Most likely it's going to be the partner's led either a singleton or a doubleton. Now, how can you work that out? Okay, so normally when partner leads an honor card, it's because they've got a sequence and they're leading the top of the sequence. But here, what we can tell is that we've got the 10 of spades, and what it means is that partner can't possibly have a sequence. Now, the reason it's either going to be a singleton or a doubleton is because in East we can see that they've got 6 spades, our hand has 3. It only means that there's 4 remaining in the other 2 hands. So what it means is that basically partner's led a singleton or a doubleton, and we know that this isn't particularly good because they're going to be able to set up their spade tricks. We also know that they've got a 10 card heart fit now that we've seen dummy, so partner had 2 spades or 1 spade, and they also have only 2 hearts, so they've got quite a few cards in the minor suits, which isn't a good thing because it shows that we had such a big fit in a minor potentially. Okay, so we'll see how the play goes. So they're not wasting any time, they're drawing out those trumps. And now we can signal to partner that we do like clubs, so hopefully partner could play a club if they ever run out of trumps, which doesn't seem likely. And now they're starting to attack those spades, and this is quite a shame for us because they're getting them set up straight away. Okay, and they get to ruff them. And now they're even playing a club across to ruff it. And there's just nothing that you can do. Don't you hate these hands where you're just sitting there playing cards, following suit, and the declarer is the only person having a great time at the table. And they're just discarding away their losers. And eventually they're going to have to lose a diamond to partner's ace. But other than that, it's going to be all over because now our West player only has hearts left in their hand. So let's take a look at this one, and I'll go right back to the start. Excuse all the frantic clicking, but we'll have a look at the hand right from the start. Hello, cross product. Alright, so lots of frantic clicking here. And here we go with what happened in our auction. So it's a bit of a crazy hand, and we might have a look at sort of the power of the distribution in this one. So if we take a look at it, we saw that our opponents were able to make 12 tricks, in hearts, and there was actually nothing that we could do to stop that. Even if we were on lead, we wouldn't have been able to stop that. The opponents, East-West, they can always make 12 tricks with hearts as trumps. Let's have a look at what our side could do. Imagine if clubs were trumps, and let's count the losers there. So, was slam biddable for them? Maybe a good board. Interesting here. Slams opposite preempts are really, really tough. What you can see here is that the cards work particularly well together because of the fact that the honors in diamonds, they're stopping us from losing 2 diamond tricks. Partner's got no wasted value in clubs. They've also got the ace of hearts. I don't think I would have been getting to slam with this hand unless you would have been able to splinter or something like that. It's a very tricky slam to get to. One thing to note is that it's only a 19-point slam, and with those 19 points, the Queen of Diamonds was actually completely useless. Remember, we actually discarded the Queen of Diamonds. So it's effectively a 17-point slam contract, and it's just the power of that distribution that makes it so that so many tricks can be taken. In terms of a sacrifice, though, if we could have got to 5 clubs, we have quite a good time because we only lose 2 spades, a heart, and a diamond as well, and that's for 2 down in our contract. So the way the scoring works here is that East-West making their contract, they get 620. If we had gone down 2 in our contract, they would have only got 500. So it actually would have been a good sacrifice if we could have found the 5 club bid. I think, though, that East might have ended up bidding 5 hearts, though, and playing there anyway. Oh, sorry, they got 680 because they did make 12 tricks. So if we could have sacrificed, we would have had a great time. But hands like this just show the power of distribution and how good it is. Just in terms of the distribution and I guess the strength of it. So we were talking about East-West being able to make 12 tricks with 19 points between the 2 hands. And we said that the Queen of Diamonds was absolutely useless anyway. So it's effectively a 17-point slam contract. When we think about this hand where if we can get to 5 clubs and think about the values that are wasted, in our hand we're wasting the Queen and the Jack of Spades because we're not taking tricks with them. We could have roughed the 3rd spade. They're completely wasted. And the 3 points in hearts are also completely wasted as well because we were always going to lose 1 heart trick. So here for the sacrifice, we didn't, for instance, because we've got a 12 card fit, don't need the King of Clubs as well. That one can go. Because you've got 12 of them, it could be the only one that you'd get rid of in terms of points. But in terms of the sacrifice, you'd make exactly the same number of tricks if you got rid of the King of Clubs, the Queen of Hearts, the Jack of Hearts, and the Queen Jack of Spades. You'd make exactly the same number of tricks in clubs, and the Jack of Diamonds as well. So what this gets to is that I think it works out that North-South with a combined 10 high card points. So this is giving them, it has to be 11, the Ace, Queen, Jack of Clubs, and also the Ace of Diamonds. They'd still make 9 tricks in clubs just because of the distribution. And with 17 high card points, because of the distribution, East-West can actually make a slam contract. So it's pretty crazy. It shows how much our points just basically need to be thrown out the window when it gets to these hands with big fits and big distribution. We talk about them in terms of basically extreme hand shapes, and what ends up happening is that both sides get so many tricks because of the fact that there's so much trumping that's going on and side suits can get set up, and it's all just wonderful. So North-South here on this one can make 9 tricks, even if they only had 11 high card points. East-West with 17 high card points, they can make a slam contract. So it's pretty crazy, isn't it? All right, let's finish up with one more and we'll see what we get this time. And we'll just get you watching one hand. Okay. So here we go, and West is our dealer, they pass, and partner's going to open with 1 diamond. Now when it comes around to us, we can here bid 1 heart, and they're going to come back with 1 no trump. Alright, what do we want to do with the South hand at this point? So we've got 10 high card points, 11 if you count a length point. It's also a really nice 11 because it's got that extra basically oomph because of the fact we know we're a lot of the time going to get to take more tricks in hearts. So it's a very, very nice hand that we have, but it is still only 11 points. Do we want to keep the bidding going or don't we is the question. And it's a really tough one to do here. Ideally, you'd like to play some sort of conventional meaning, such as 2 clubs as check back if you do that. But what I'd probably do is maybe just settle on bidding 2 clubs and show my other suit. Now, you might want to potentially pass one no trump here. I probably wouldn't do that because I'm reasonably likely to have a fit in clubs or in hearts. And I also just want to see what happens because you never know, we still might be able to get to a game contract. So yeah, I'd still bid my clubs. I wouldn't rebid my hearts because I've already told partner I've got 5 of those. Even though they're so good, I still want to play in my fit. The rationale is that my ace, king, queen of hearts, they're going to take tricks whether they're trumps or whether they're not. So I might as well see if we've got a fit somewhere else. Okay, and partner's going to come back and say 2 hearts for us. This gives us another problem. Where are you counting 11 points? I like to count a length point. So I'm giving myself a bonus point for having a 5-card suit. So generally, because your long suits take tricks, it's much better, for instance, having this hand than, for instance, if you actually move the 3 of hearts to be the 3 of diamonds. Long suits will generally take more tricks, so I like to count on 1 bonus point for a 5-card suit and 2 bonus points for a 6-card suit, and add them to my hand. Then if you do add on, and then so what happens is with our distribution points, if you count length points and shortage points, it's double dipping. So this is once you find a fit, if you're counting points for singletons and voids and doubletons. If you do count length points and you count shortage points, you're actually double dipping. What you need to do is you need to count one or the other. So if you found a fit with partner, what I do is I count shortage points, but I don't count length points. And if I don't have a fit with partner, I count length points, but I don't count any shortage points. So here, I'd just be counting length points at the moment. It's also interesting about what we can count now, because on this hand, I do only get 1 length point, but if I can count shortage points, I do happen to get 3 of them, which also makes my hand a lot better. And so here with sort of partner's hand, now that they've bid 2 hearts, it's can I count shortage points or can't I? And what I mean by that is it possible that partner only has 2 hearts when they bid 2 hearts here? And it actually is. Let's give them a hand where they only had sort of 3 clubs, and maybe give them 5 diamonds and 2 hearts and 3 spades. Or some people, if they had 4 spades here, might even skip over spades to bid 1 no trump. So it is entirely possible that partner could only have 2 hearts here. Even if they do have 3, I'm going to still need them to be the absolute top of their range to have game be a really, really good contract. And I'm basically sort of marking that on the fact that having a singleton in my partner suit isn't necessarily a great thing. If I was to have a singleton club rather than a singleton diamond or a singleton spade even, I'd be much happier. Generally, singletons in your partner suits aren't that great because they're not helping set up that long suit. They're not doing any work at bolstering up their tricks. So generally, I don't know what to do with this one. I'm sort of on the cusp. Would I want to invite game? Would I want to just pass 2 hearts? Who knows? It might depend on things such as where the match was at, or basically how aggressive I was feeling that day, or did we need points, or what was going on. I might end up just passing 2 hearts a lot of the time, I think. Which does feel sad because I guarantee you there will be a lot of the time that you do actually get to make a 4-heart contract. So let's see how it's going to go. Okay, so you got the 8 of diamonds lead, and this is the dummy that comes down. Now remember, what we're going to do is we're going to count our losers when we're in a suit contract. So here we are in hearts. What about our losers in spades? Okay, this is a really tricky one to count. And this is because we have to think about the scenarios that could happen. Now, the worst case scenario, and this is really bad. Imagine if the ace got to capture our king, we'd lose that one. And imagine if the queen got to capture our jack, we'd lose that one. And then we'd also lose to the 10 as well. So we've got 4 high card points in spades, but we actually could lose all 3 of our spade tricks. It doesn't feel that way, but it could actually happen. So that one's a bit of a shame. In hearts, we don't have any losers. In diamonds, we don't have any losers. And again, this was counting with South being the anchor hand. So we can only lose the number of cards in a suit that South has. All right, now clubs, this will be a tricky one. So clubs we actually count as 4 losers. Now the reason for that is, again, we're applying the anchor hand principle. So South's got 4 losers in clubs. That means we could possibly lose 4. And if we say that the ace got to capture the queen, and then the king got to capture the 9, and then the jack got to capture the 10, we'd then lose to the 8. So we'd count it as 4 losers. Now, what you might be thinking is, hold on a second, I can trump some clubs, I might be able to discard one. These are all ways of getting rid of losers. So that's the work that we're going to do. Now, when we think about our work, the first thing I like to think of is, are there any extra winners that I can use for discards? And here I've got an extra diamond winner. I only have 1 loser because I've only got 1 diamond, but I've got an extra, no losers, but I've also got an extra winner. Now we like to use extra winners so that we can discard things. So what I'd want to do is I'd probably either want to discard a spade or a club on my king of diamonds. And in choosing which one I'd probably prefer, I'd probably actually prefer to discard a spade. And that's because I've got another option with my clubs. With my clubs, I might be able to trump 2 of my club losers using the dummy's trumps. Okay, so that's what I'd basically be thinking on this hand. Now, the other thing is, if I want to trump clubs, as many clubs that I need to trump, I need that many trumps in the dummy. So here, for instance, if I want to trump 2 clubs, I'm going to need to have 2 hearts in the dummy. And what that means is I can't afford to draw trumps because then the dummy won't have any and I won't be able to do any trumping. So what I'll have to do on this hand is actually get to work straight away. Now, if I wanted to, I could take my spade discard now, and that'd be basically just in preparation for an attack on spades. But I think what I'll do is I'll start actually playing clubs. And ideally, I'd like to play little cards towards big cards. So I'd like to be in South and play a club up towards North. If I wanted to, I could actually rough a diamond to do that, but I might be opening up weird things in diamonds. Because both the ace and the king are out, I know that they're always going to capture the queen. So I think what I'm going to do is actually just basically play a club and let the opponents win it. Now, at this stage, if the opponent's clued onto my plan, they might actually play a heart back at me and stop me from being able to win my hearts as trumps. Okay, and we get the spade switch. All right, so this is interesting. Now, here we've got to decide what we want to do. Now, we've got what we call a king-jack guess. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to basically end up choosing which player we think has the ace and which player we think has the queen. And that's if both the honours are split. Now, we know that West has one of the honours because they've led low. So what it means is that we're going to have to choose which one we think they have. I might be tempted to think they had the ace, and that's because they led a diamond. If they had the queen, they might have led a spade on the hand. You're more likely to win the 10 of clubs than the jack of spades, I think. So is this in terms of basically what I'm going to discard, or... So with my 10 of clubs, I've got chances of winning it. They're not particularly high. What I'm trying to do is basically keep all my options open for different things. If the opponents attack spades, I'm going to be able to win a spade trick, at least one, but my real fear would be is if I had to play spades myself. That'd be the real problem on the hand. Being that West didn't lead a spade, I think I might try the 2. Okay, and we get the ace. All right. And then they come back with the 10. So we know they led away from the queen. We can win the king now. Okay, so at this stage, what I might do, I'm still worried about that last spade. I know I have to lose to the queen, and I wanted to discard that on the diamond. So when I'm choosing which to discard, but I can see you can trump a club and can't trump a spade. Yeah, that was basically the rationale. So when you're thinking about which losers you want to discard, generally, so we've got our 3 different ways of getting rid of losers. We've got our discarding, we've got our trumping, and we've got our finessing. When you're choosing which one to discard, if you've got choices, I always make it the one that I can't do something else about. So because I could possibly trump clubs, I'm going to find it better to discard spades. And I also want to get rid of it right now, because if I don't, the opponents might be able to take it if they get in. Okay, and again, I still wanted to work on those clubs and roughing them, so I might come out another club. Okay, there we go. And at this stage, my sneaky opponents, they're going to clue onto the fact of what I'm doing and switch to a heart. Oh, wow. Okay, we just got some bad news, didn't we? So what we've just seen is that West, we're down to what? The last 7 cards. We haven't even touched trumps, and that was because we wanted to do trumping. We couldn't afford to. And what's ended up happening is that we now have discovered that our East player started off life with 5 hearts. And so what we're going to want to be able to do at this stage is try to get as many of our trump tricks as we can. We still want to continue on with that mission, I guess, of being able to trump our clubs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the clubs. Now I'm trying to get my tricks in what's called a cross ruff. So I'm basically trying to take them separately, and this was my whole plan all along. I wanted to be able to trump those clubs. I'm also hoping that I might be able to get an extra trick out of it in terms of basically getting to win both of my little hearts as well. I do have some problems though with East having all of the hearts. Okay, so at this stage, I know that East is only down to hearts, and that's because they ended up starting with 5 hearts. We've only played 1 of them, and we've now got 4 hearts left. So they have to have the 4 hearts left. So by not discarding the spade on trick 2, you run the risk of losing all 3 spades before getting the lead back right. So I don't really run the risk of losing all 3 spades, and that's because it's what we call a frozen suit. The opponents, if I start attacking spades, the opponents could win all 3 of them, and that's because the ace could capture the king, then the queen could capture the jack, then I have to lose to the 10. On the other hand, if the opponents attack spades, I can never lose all 3 of them. And that's because of the fact that when the opponents play 1, I'm simply going to play low from the next hand and force out one of their honours. So what it'll mean is that their honours don't actually capture my honours. So I end up pretty safe there. If we do play spades ourselves, we will lose 3. And I'll go back and show you that at the end of the hand. So now that I know that our East player's down to all hearts, I do have a little bit of a problem because now have a look at what happens. Might actually show you all the hands from this point. Okay, so I'm going to be much better trying to ruff a club, but I do get over ruff, so I have to lose 1 of them. But now our East is what we call end played. So ideally, well, from East's mind, they do deserve to win a heart trick. If I was on lead, I'd have to play out the ace and the king, and then I'd have to lose to their 9. But because they're on lead, they actually have to give me all of the heart tricks. So if East comes out the 9, I get to play the king. And if they just came out with the 5 or the 4, I can actually simply win the 8. So poor East is going to get end played there. So let's go right back to the start of the hand. And I just want to go through basically what happened on that plan, because a lot of the time people might just draw trumps here. But if we made our plan from trick 1, we know that's not the case. So the first thing, our spade losers, we do count them as 3. And that's because if the ace captures the king and the queen captures the jack, we have to lose to the 10. And I'll show you why it doesn't matter if the opponents attack it. Now they might be able to get a ruff, but generally it won't matter if the opponents attack the suit. We can't lose 3 if they attack the suit. If we attack it, we can, but if they attack it, we can't. And that's because the next hand that plays, we play low. Now what happens is it doesn't matter which honor East has, we force it out. So if it was the Queen, we'd force it out, but then we've got the King and the Jack, so we definitely get 1 stopper or 1 winner. When it's the Ace, again the same sort of thing happens. They can still sort of finesse our Jack, but we have to get a winner. And this is a really common holding that actually comes up in 3 no trumps. You'll have these sorts of holdings a lot in 3 no trumps. Another common one would even be, for instance, if you in 3 no trumps where you change North's King to be the Queen. And one hand has the Queen to 2 or 3, and the other hand has the Jack, and you need at least 3 in one hand. And it's a case of if you play the suit, you can easily lose a lot of tricks. But if the opponents play the suit, for instance, we'll pretend that was the Queen and this was the King. If the opponents play the suit, you always just play low from the second hand, and now the hand that has an honor is going to be forced to play an honor, and you'll get a stopper. So always a good tip to have to sort of these frozen suits. They come up a lot in 3 no trumps, so they're good to be aware of. But yeah, back to the plan basically. So we had 3 spade losers. We don't want to attack spades. We want to make our opponents do it. We had no diamonds or no hearts, and we even had an extra winner in diamonds. And it's whether we wanted to discard a club or a spade with that diamond. Now, because of the fact that I can potentially ruff clubs, I chose that I'd probably prefer to discard a spade rather than a club. And then the last part of the plan was that I wanted to trump 2 of my clubs. Now, in wanting to trump 2 of my clubs, I've got the big problem that I need 2 trumps in the north hand. So what it means is I can't afford to draw the trumps at this stage. I have to do my work and then draw the trumps. And this was all even before knowing about the bad break. If I just drew trumps and I didn't know about the bad break, I would have had a lot of problems because I would have ended up losing basically my tricks and clubs and my hearts as well, and it would have all been a bit of a bloodbath really. So it shows just how important it is to make a plan at trick 1 and think about how you're going to get to win those tricks. So we can win a spade as long as we don't lead it. Yep, we definitely don't want to touch that suit. I love the opponents playing suits for me. And yeah, it was great when I forced East to play the Jack of Hearts, and then they had to give me all the heart tricks. So feel a bit sorry for East here. It's also one of the reasons that it shows that you shouldn't double contracts just because you have 5 trumps. Don't ever fall into that trap of, especially if the opponents get to game and you double because they've got 5 trumps, because a lot of the time they are makeable contracts, and if you do double, you actually alert your opponents to it as well, so they can often make a plan based on that fact. So I hope you enjoyed today's session, and we'll be back next week. And it looks like everybody managed to sort of adapt to the time. So I know some places around the world have also changed on daylight savings, but we will update that in the newsletter as well. And last thing is, of course, if you're a member of our site, we've just started our slam bidding technique course. We're going to send out an email a little bit later today, but you can already jump into it through the website. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.